Hey there my lovelies, and welcome to my booktube channel, The Sassy Library Fox. My name is V, and today I'm finally going to talk about the books I read in December. It's time to go for my December wrap-up video. I'm very late with this because, well, December didn't go the way I planned it to go. Well, I guess that's life for you. It usually doesn't go the way you want it to. But yeah, let's just say I had a lot of stress in the first 2 weeks of December at work, in private life, in general. And yeah, after those really 2 stressful weeks, my body just shut down and didn't want to do anything anymore, and I ended up being ill for the rest of December. So you might say from the middle of December until the end of December and even into the new year, I've been ill. So I didn't get any reading done. Or, well, I did get some reading done in the first 2 weeks of December and on the 31st, because I just wanted to finish one more book before I went into the new year. So I have 3 books to talk about, and this should be a really fast wrap-up. I'm still not all too healthy. I don't know if you see it over the cam, but my skin was full of pimples and it still is. And I don't know, this sickness totally went on my vocal cords. So if I sound a little bit different than usually, it's due to that. Personally, for me, it still doesn't feel like my voice is back to normal. I don't know if other people hear me normally, but for me, I still don't have my voice back, if that makes sense. Well, anyway, enough of that. Let's just talk about the 3 books I managed to read in December. And I wanted to read more than those 3, but I'm glad I managed to read those 3 at least. And the first book I finished in December was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie. I rated it with 4 paws. It was a really interesting story. I liked all the fairy tale vibes. It's based on a Korean legend. And I think the Korean legend is the tale of Shim Cheong. I hope I pronounced it right now. And, well, it's kind of loosely based on it because Shim Jeong is a character in this book, but just a side character. She's like the character that gets everything going, because in this book we have a world that is plagued by floods and really horrible accidents that happen at sea, and the people, well, they sacrifice a bride to the sea god each year. I think it's each year. And that bride is supposed to placate him and make him pliable and bring peace to the land. So they always choose the prettiest girl, and that is Shim Jeong. Problem is, she is in love with Mina's brother Chun, and that's where the plot actually picks up, because they both accompany her out to the sea, and when the moment comes where she's supposed to be thrown into the ocean, Mina jumps into the ocean instead of her, because she doesn't want her brother to be sad. Which is kind of funny, because I'm pretty certain he was very sad that his sister jumped into the waves. Anyway, thing is, she comes to the palace underneath the sea and enters the spirit realm as the sea god's bride. But when she comes to his throne, he is in deep slumber. And there are 3 soldiers that instantly snatch her soul for the better of the sea god, they claim, because apparently he gets vulnerable through the sea brides. and no one managed to wake him up. And Mina has about 1 month, I think, to manage to get back her soul, which turned into a magpie, pretty interesting thing, and to wake up the sea god. So the journey starts from there. I really loved this book. It had such interesting fairy tale vibes. I wasn't familiar with the legend before I read the book, so that was really interesting and great. Also, the world building was so beautiful and honestly enchanting. Mina as a main character was really such a strong female MC. You just gotta love her. And all the side characters we get to know the 3 warriors that took Mina's soul, that are actually pretty nice and decent guys. I loved Lord Shin and also Kirin, and oh, I was such a sucker for Namji. Namji was such a great character. And also there are spirits that help Mina along her way, and Mask, Dai and Mickey were amazing as well. I just love those 3 so much. It's such a found family vibe in this story, and quite honestly I still think Kirin and Namji had a thing for each other, but didn't dare to say it. Anyway, maybe that's just my perception. But it was great. It was really a nice fantasy fairy tale. I got swept away with it and it was nice. And yes, sometimes things didn't make a lot of sense, but I think this is one of the tales you just gotta take the way it is. Fairy tales often don't make a lot of sense. And if you like that kind and are just there for the journey, then I'm sure you will enjoy the book. Yeah, that was the first book I read. The second book I read in December. Just let me take a sip, I need my coffee. I'm holding onto it for dear life. I'm just saying this for you, Yongi. I forgot to mention, I met the Yongi to my V. We finally met after 7 years of being online besties, and it literally was the best day ever and the best Christmas present ever, because I met her right before Christmas on the 22nd, and honestly for me this was the best Christmas gift ever. So we had so much fun. I'm so glad I finally met her in real life, and I couldn't have been any happier. I just hope it won't take another 7 years until we meet again. But I guess we will see. Okay, this little life update thrown into it. I'm just gonna take a sip now. And I'll talk about the second book I read in December. And it was Heartstopper Volume 5 by Oseman. And I loved it so much. I'm so glad I finally found it at the library, because for a very long time they didn't have it in English. But then I went into one of those libraries and I found it. So I immediately wanted to read it, and I did. I actually finished that one I think at the beginning of December. It was one of the 2 books I managed to read at the beginning. And of course, I rated it very highly. I gave it 4.5 paws, and I just love how many topics were tackled in here once again. We have Nick and Charlie. If you've read the 4th volume, you know that Charlie had quite a couple of mental health problems that affected their relationship. Of course they did. But they managed to handle them in a really good way, and Nick was there to support Charlie, which was great. So the 4th volume was very serious. This volume is, well, not exactly less serious. There are a lot of important topics tackled as well, but it's not that heavy, or not as heavy as the 4th volume was. It's more into the direction of the future. Nick has to decide where he wants to go after he finishes school, and Charlie will stay back at home. So they are kind of trying to figure out who they are without each other, but at the same time they want to take the relationship to the next step. and that was also very interesting. I really loved the approach to this topic and how it was handled. So yeah, Nick and Charlie are just, I loved that they were both scared of taking the next step for different reasons actually. And while Charlie's reasons have more to do with his mental health and his thoughts that occur whenever things might get a little bit more intense, let's put it that way. And for Nick, it's more that he just doesn't know who he is exactly. He still hasn't figured out everything about himself. He only started his LGBTQIA plus journey, if you want to say it like that. So yeah, they both are insecure for various reasons and want to take it slowly. And yeah, I think that's okay that way it is. And I also like that we got to see more of Tori's struggles and her relationship with Michael Holden. If you've read Tori's story, you might know more about that. I loved it, and I really liked how Charlie reacted to Tori coming out to him, and yeah, how everything was revealed. It was really nice and funny, but also serious. It was done so nicely. Okay, anyway, I really liked that volume. I gave it 4.5 paws, and I won't say more unless I want this video to get out of hand and to blow out of proportions. So let's just stick with that, okay? And the last book I read in December, taking another sip here, was A Promise of Peridot by Kate Golden. And I read it with 4 paws. I got it as an ARC, I think in summer, from the author herself. Thank you so much, Kate, for gifting me that ARC. I'm so sorry I only managed to get to it at the ending of the year. It's been quite an eventful year. I had a lot of things on my plate, so I'm very sorry. But I really loved it. Once I really picked it up and started to read it, I went through it so fast. And it was the second book in a trilogy. I think it's called the Sacred Stones trilogy. And Aaron and Cain are the 2 main characters, and I really love their dynamic. They are kind of enemies to lovers, but then there happen a lot of things in the first book, and what I really liked is that Aaron is a healer, and she is in really a little village in a kingdom far away from any action, and just heals people there. She has a special ability, a healing ability, and she helps the people there and lives with her mother and her sister. Her brother had to go to war, and they have quite a really quiet life there until one day her brother brings, well, let's say trouble to her doorstep, and she is whisked away into another kingdom and thrown into the dungeons there. And there she meets a mysterious stranger, and that mysterious stranger, yeah, let's say he might play a bigger role in the next couple of books. Not going to spoil anything here, but I really like the second book, and this might include spoilers now, so if you haven't read the first book, you better don't listen to this and cut it out. I will mark it as a spoiler section when I do the video tags. Anyway, Aaron's and Cain's relationship is really interesting in this one, because due to the things that happened at the ending of the first book, Aaron distrusts Cain so much, and she lets all her anger go into his direction. It's focused on him. She has to deal with her mother's loss and with the realization that she is a full-blooded fae. And well, Cain, he blames himself for everything that happened on the beach. Griffin and Mari are also at odds. They are both madly in love with each other, but they don't dare to act on it. Quite honestly, Griffin's restraint is really admirable. It's actually quite surprising that Marty and Tim still didn't do anything. Yeah. Mari has become a very powerful witch due to the necklace, or at least she thinks it is due to that. And as they all become refugees in the kingdom of, I think, Azurine. Is it Azurine? I think it's Azurine. Anyway, they seek shelter there as refugees and are taken in there at least for a day. And there comes a third player into the game named Frederick, and Frederick is the prince of that kingdom, and of course he likes Aaron. So we have a love triangle, which is one of the reasons I rated this one half paw less, because I really don't like unnecessary love triangles. And quite honestly, from the moment Frederick was introduced, I knew that he was just a tool to make Arwen realize how much she loves Cain. So, yeah, I gotta be honest here, that was one of the reasons why this got one half paw less, and the other reason why I took another half paw off was because, oh god, where to start? I mean, things get very heated and steamy between Arwen and Cain once they admit to their feelings. So I just couldn't with the mention of how masculine Cain is. It was mentioned so often at the beginning of the book. Then it got better. So yeah, I think it's probably because I read the ARC copy, and I'm pretty certain the author might have changed that afterwards. But at the beginning there was a lot of mention of how masculine Cain is. And yeah, the scenes when it got pretty hot between them, I don't know, it was pretty descriptive, and there were things like she mewled, and I'm like, mewling in a scene like that? I don't know, I don't know, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not the kind of person who likes descriptions like that. And I'm actually one of those people that really reads a lot of smut when I'm in the right mood for it, but it just didn't work for me in that scene. Quite honestly, I had to laugh a little bit. So yeah, it kind of ruined it for me when she was mewling, and yeah, never mind. Aside of that, I really enjoyed the book. I gave it 4 paws for a reason, because the rest was really nice and amazing and very suspenseful. I loved that the first half of the book was extremely suspenseful, and that we saw a lot of the world building, and that the characters were explored in more depth, that we got to see Cain's point of view. I loved that his point of view was added to the plot, because I really needed his point of view, and it gave so much more strength to the plot and meaning to everything that happened between them. And you can see that he's totally besotted with Aaron. I really liked, despite the love triangle that developed, also there was a love triangle that developed between Mari and Griffin and Ryder, and I totally wasn't on board of that one as well. But I like the addition of Frederick as a character. He's really such a precious being and honorable, and he probably would be a better choice for Arwen, but as we all know, she is bound to Cain, so that was never going to happen. But I really liked his character, and if his love interest would have gone into a different direction, I would have loved to have him in the book. So yeah, I rated this one 4 paws because it was great when it came to the world building and the plot and how everything developed, and to the character building and character arcs. There were a couple of things I didn't like that much. I told you about them already. So let's just stick with Four Paws, and I'm going to read the third book because I really like this world and the characters in it, and I want to know how it all ends and if they're able to win against Lazarus or not. Okay, so that was my wrap up of December. I think it probably took longer than I thought it would, but once I start to talk about books that really persuade me and that I like, I tend to talk about them in depth. All those books were 4 paws or more, so yeah, I had a really good reading month when it came to the quality of the books. Unfortunately, I didn't read a lot of them. Yeah, but it's winter, everyone is ill, so I guess that's just normal. Okay, so I would really love to hear if you've read any of the books I read, what you thought about them, if you liked them. If you didn't, write it down in the comments below. You know, I always answer them. And well, I would love to hear which kind of books you read in December. If you've read more than I did, I hope you did, and that you were really healthy and were able to enjoy the holidays. And yeah, well, I guess we're already at the ending of my video, and there's nothing left to say except of take care, stay healthy and safe, and see you around the next time. Bye!